Hello, everyone. We are here on a very, very special segment, and it's all about the Beach Boys' new release, You Gotta Groove. You Gotta Groove is a new release from the Boys of the Beach. Here it is. It's the Brother Studio Sessions. And really what that is, back in the early 70s, the Beach Boys bought an old porn theater and made a recording studio, and they called it Brother Studios. And that's where they recorded their last albums, some of their last albums. So in the late 70s. So what I'd like to do is kind of talk to you about this release. It's, to me, very exciting, and tell you what's happening and what's on it. All right. So I'm gonna talk about. I'll start from the beginning. In 1976, Brian Wilson decided to go back into the studio with the Beach Boys and produced. Now, he hadn't produced a Beach Boys album since probably Pet Sounds. So it was about 10 years. So they were very excited about this, and the album that was released was 15 Big Ones. And 15 Big Ones contained many Brian Wilson compositions, along with several cover versions. And their lead-off single was the Chuck Berry classic Rock and Roll Music, which was a huge hit. It might have made number one, if not number one and number two. It was a huge hit. And that was big for the Beach Boys. They hadn't enjoyed a hit like that in many, many years. So they released their 15 Big Ones album, and this is July of 1976. So it was the 200th anniversary of the United States and also the Olympics. So it had all that excitement, and they had the Olympic rings on the cover of the album. All the original Beach Boys are on the cover of the album. No Bruce Johnson, no Ricky Fatar, no Blondie Chaplin. These are the original Beach Boys. And there was a lot of buzz about it, especially seeing as how they got back to their roots with rock and roll music, because prior to that you had the Beach Boys Holland and Surf's Up, which was a very sophisticated Beach Boys sound, a more mature adult. And they had like I said, Blondie Chaplin, Ricky Fatar in the band on those previous two albums, actually three. I think Carl and the Passions, they were on it. So this was back to the Beach Boys roots, and everybody was excited about that. So we had 15 Big Ones, hit single, hit album. It had Rock and Roll Music, and then it had the hit It's Okay, and everything was happy. Everyone was happy in Beach Boys land. The thing is Brian really wanted 15 Big Ones to be an album of cover versions. And that was kind of denied. But this box set contains the other songs that weren't included on 15 Big Ones. Now, this set doesn't include the actual 15 Big Ones album, where I don't really know why, but it doesn't. It starts with Beach Boys Love You, which I will get into. But 15 Big Ones outtakes, it does include. And these are the songs that they recorded for the album originally. Just Once in My Life, which was, of course, the Righteous Brothers song. Moni Moni, the Tommy James. Running Bear, which I forget who did that. Shake, Rattle, and Roll. On Broadway, which I had heard that the Beach Boys recorded I heard about that song for years and years, and I always wanted to hear it, and here we have it. And Sea Cruise. They also did Chapel of Love. And I think that's it. So this set includes not the 15 Big Ones album, but it includes the outtakes that weren't included on the album. So that's a definite plus. So what we do is we start the very first album that is in this set is the Beach Boys Love You. Now, this is the album that came out about a year after the 15 Big Ones. Now, it was originally going to be called Brian Loves You, and then they decided maybe to be more inclusive, I guess, and title it The Beach Boys Love You. So there you have it. But this really is Brian Wilson performing all the music. I mean, there are some additional instrumentation by other people, but for the most part, this is I'm not going to say it's a Brian Wilson album, but in a way it is. He did all the music, the drum tracks, and it's a very synth heavy album. And then he brought in the rest of the Beach Boys for vocals. And Brian had a habit of doing that in the 60s. He would have the Wrecking Crew do the instruments, and then he would have the Beach Boys come in and do the vocals. So, it wasn't much different than previous. But nonetheless, so we have this Beach Boys Love You album. And they released it. They didn't have a hit single. They didn't have a good single from it. The single that they released was one of the best songs on the album. Is called Honkin' Down the Highway, which Al Jardine sang. But the songs were kind of irreverent, if that. Very simplistic. Brian was still doing drugs and not smoking packs of cigarettes, so his voice was raggedy still. 15 Big Ones, his voice was terribly hoarse, not the angelic Brian Wilson that we were used to hearing previous years, but ragged, and he still had that problem. So but nonetheless, there's some good songs on it, but some kind of crazy songs that I always kind of said they were almost like nursery rhymes or Dr. Seuss rhymes. But a good song, Mona is a great song. The Night Was So Young, Let's Put Our Hearts Together, Love Is a Woman, those are pretty good songs. But then he puts out Johnny Carson, a song about Johnny Carson, and that was kind of odd song. I mean I love it, and we all laughed when we heard it, but and then a song called Solar System, which is another very simple song. And Airplane. These are songs that just lyrically were very very simple. Interesting on this album is that Dennis Wilson sang quite a few songs on it, which he very seldom did. But nonetheless, this is it. The Beach Boys Love You. You know, from what I read too, the record company, you know, keep in mind that, you know, this was Brother Records, but it was, I think, either Warner Brothers or Reprise that was the distributor, and they just really didn't have a lot of faith in the album. So anyway, it kind of flopped. But this box set includes some of the outtakes from Beach Boys Love You, which is Ruby Baby, the Dion song. There's a song called Sherry, She Needs Me. And that's a song, that's a really, really good song. Like I said, this is an outtake. But it was originally recorded in, I think, 1964. And it was recorded by I think a lot of the Wrecking Crew musicians were on this song. I know Leon Russell is, and several others. And then they updated it back in 1977 when they were in the Beach Boy Love You studios or production. There's another song they didn't include, which is We Got a Groove, which is the title of this box set. This is the back of the box set, by the way. Which is a really good song. And also You've Lost That Love and Feeling is on it. And I don't know. I mean, that's a good version, but it's hard to put out a version. You've got the Righteous Brothers, whose version is so strong that, you know, you think, well, this is not going to really compare, but who am I? But it's still a good version. So there are other songs. There's a song called Hey There Mama, and it's kind of, it's a bizarre song, but I like it. It's goofy, but I think it's a kind of a fun song. So there's some good Beach Boy Love You outtakes on this. Also, so let me do this. So there's the Beach Boys Love You. Then it comes with this album, vinyl, of the outtakes. And then it contains the long unreleased mythical Adult Child album. Now, after they did Beach Boys Love You, Brian went into the studio with a big band and Frank Sinatra's music arranger and recorded 9 songs for an album to be titled Adult Child. Now, this is what comes in the box set. And I'm not sure if that's the going to be the original album cover, or they just created that for this set. But nonetheless, the Adult Child album is finally released. That's another Smile, that was shelved and not released. But with Adult Child, none of the with Smile, you had a lot of songs that ended up on other albums, and then Brian put out his version of Smile, and then also, of course, Capitol eventually released the Smile album from the Beach Boys recording. But by that time, after seeing all the, or hearing some of the Smile songs on other albums, and then also Brian's version of Smile being released, by the time Capitol released the actual Smile album, to me it was like too little too late. It's like, well, it's kind of a nothing burger at this point. But nonetheless, this Adult Child has never been released, except on bootleg, and I've never heard it, not even on bootleg, so I was very excited to hear. But so what we have is the first song on this is called Life is for the Living, and that song is a kick in the ass. It's a great song. Like I said, it's got a bam, 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 big band. And then they go into Deep Purple, the old When the Deep Purple Falls Over Sleeping. I'm not going to sing it. That song. Then a couple of Brian Wilson songs. And then there's a song called Still I Dream of It. And he wrote that song and offered it to Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra turned it down. So Brian and the Beach Boys recorded it. I think that was, I don't understand a lot of these artists who haven't been on the charts, who haven't really done a lot in years and years, turning down, not up and coming, but these great songwriters. He turned down Brian Wilson, but in the early 70s, McCartney wrote a song for Frank Sinatra called Suicide, and Frank turned it down. Okay. In 1974, when Elton John was at his peak, him and Bernie Taupin offered to write Elvis Presley a song. Nope, they didn't want it. And, to have Elvis sing an Elton John song, or Frank Sinatra sing a Brian Wilson or Paul McCartney song, would have been huge. Not just for curiosity's sake, but that would have played into it, but also they would have been good songs. The song that McCartney wrote called Suicide would have been a perfect Frank Sinatra song. Oh well. And this song, Still I Dream of It, would have been a good Frank Sinatra song also. So, anyway, so it has a cover of Deep Purple, also a cover of Shortening Bread. Go figure. So now you have the Adult Child sessions. And I don't know if I showed you guys this already. I think I did. But you still got some outtakes. And a couple Carl Wilson songs, Holy Man. And Give Me Some Lovin', which was that Stevie Winwood penned song, and I think Brian kind of added to it. So it's penned by Stevie Winwood and Brian Wilson. So we also have just some demos on this set. They're cassette demos from Brian. And no use going over all the songs, but there are some demos. And here's so I showed you the albums or the vinyl, and then here's the set for the CDs. And the CDs contain everything and more that was on the vinyl. And then it comes with a nice book. So, here's the rub. You could only get this on the Beach Boys website or Brother Records website or Brian Wilson's website. It's not available on Amazon. The price is right. It's not pricey at all. And they did it right by putting the vinyl and CDs in one set. Now you have everything. I'll do you guys a solid and tell you that you could go on YouTube, and if you type in Beach Boys, We Got a Groove, every single song is on YouTube in order of appearance on the album. So I encourage you, if you're not going to buy this, to listen to it, and and tell me what you think, because I really think that this is a really significant release. I'm very happy with it, and losing Brian Wilson this past year was kind of a blow, and now we have some more, in my opinion, proof of his genius. Not like we needed any more proof, but at least you get to hear some of this stuff. And the adult child is really something to listen to. And like I said, if go on YouTube, listen to these songs, and tell me what you think. Okay. I want to give a special shout out, and I really try not to mention Mega 64, but I want to give a shout out to the fans of Mega 64. They are the best. They are the best. And we visited Rocco when he was encased in that room for 10 days. And I mentioned my YouTube page. And I said, well, I'm at 1.6 thousand subscribers. I really want to get to 2,000 subscribers. And I'm telling you, within 10 minutes, I had over 2,000 subscribers. And we all laughed, and the people that were typing in were laughing. And that was just really awesome. And I really, really want to thank you guys. Like I said, I don't like mentioning it because this is his deal and their deal, and I want to be on my own in that respect. But I know there's always going to be a relationship, but nonetheless, thank you guys. All right. With that, I will say bye. I made it under a half hour. My first take, I did a take before, and it was right at a half hour. I'm 7 minutes or 6 minutes shorter, so that's good for you. We'll see you later. We'll see you next month. I've got something really special next month to present to you guys. But other than that, take care.